Coming up on BVTV News, the presidential election took place Tuesday, November 3rd, and in-person voting looked a little different this year. We'll take you behind the scenes to several polling locations in Buena Vista County. Also, student organization Raíces took the opportunity to educate the large Latinx community in Storm Lake about voting procedures. We'll share the details on all this and more coming up on BVTV News. From BVTV Studios on the campus of Buena Vista University in Storm Lake, Iowa, this is BVTV News. Thanks for joining us on BVTV News. I'm Autumn McLean. Cases of COVID-19 on campus have stabilized, allowing BVU to declare a level 1, a normal rate of virus transmission on campus. Currently, BVU has 10 active cases. In the most recent 4 weeks, cases on campus have declined at a steady rate, dropping from 12 on October 16th to 10 today, November 5th. Here's Brian Lensmeyer with more.
We've had some good results lately, running on about 4 to 5 weeks now of anywhere from 1 to 3 student cases a week, which is great. Compared to that week, we had 40 way back. This is a big improvement. Where I do get worried right now is actually more what's happening in the Storm Lake community and in Northwest Iowa.
Lensmeyer shared he has growing concerns about the rapid increase of COVID-19 cases in Buena Vista County.
We've seen an uptick in a few employees in the past few days that are testing positive, and a lot of times that's because a family member has brought it home from their work or their place of what they were doing on the weekends. So I'm actually a little more concerned about Storm Lake right now than I am about BVU. I'm going to say that, saying don't get complacent because this thing could go south really fast.
From October 26th to November 2nd, Buena Vista County has seen an increase of 104 COVID-19 cases, according to Clay County Public Health. So far, BVU continues to maintain a stable rate of COVID-19 cases on campus. With the results of the 2020 presidential election still unknown, Cody Holtgrew took us behind the scenes to several voting locations in Buena Vista County.
Despite a global pandemic, voters have turned out in droves for the 2020 presidential election. Storm Lakers were encouraged to vote early or in person at one of 4 precinct locations in Storm Lake. Susan Lloyd, Buena Vista County Auditor, explained that early voting numbers this year have surpassed all previous elections.
When I look back at 4 years ago, that was our highest absentee, and that was 3,251. As of yesterday, we were at 4,011.
Storm Lake citizens that wish to vote in person had 4 locations to choose from. With multiple locations, BV students were able to cast their ballot in person.
3 out of the 4 Storm Lake precincts will be at the Storm Lake High School. So actually the university students that live on campus will vote at the Storm Lake High School. And the other precinct is St. Mark's Lutheran Church.
Lloyd shared her views on the expected turnouts for this election, emphasizing the potential turnout of young voters.
This election, I think, is drawing attention for everybody, but I really think that the young people will be out voting, and that's good.
Dalton Walker, president of BVU College Republicans, hopes to see a higher turnout in young people. He elaborates on how social media could influence young people in this election.
That younger peoples in this election are specifically turning out more because of our involvement within social media and had the impact that plays on our lives, because social media, especially during election times, gets really, really political, and when you're exposed to more political stuff, you care about it more, and so we have more of an incentive to go vote.
Dalton ended with an inspiring quote that bridges the gap between Republicans and Democrats.
No matter if you're Republican or Democrat, in the end, we're all Americans, and that's what we're in this race for, is to make all of our lives better, because we're in it together. It's not party versus party, it's all of us as a people.
With final results still pending, Storm Lakers eagerly wait for the winner to be announced. I'm Cody Holtgrew, BVTV News.
BVU Board of Trustees have decided that current interim president Dr. Brian Lensmeyer will assume the role of president of Buena Vista University effective immediately. At the press conference formally announcing his presidency, Lensmeyer shared his vision as president of the university.
One of the things, we have a growing diversity within our student body, and I'd like us to diversify our faculty and staff, make sure that we are meeting the needs of students from diverse backgrounds. Affordability is also really important to me, keeping college affordable for students while maintaining high quality And that's a tough challenge. It's a big balance to have good faculty, to have good staff. We have to pay people well.
And now stories from the TAC, BVU's leading news organization. BVU's annual Christmas dinner will take place this year despite the obstacles of COVID-19. The Christmas dinner is November 17th, with shifts starting at 5 p.m. Check out an article by Jordan Daggs Olson for more details. Also, The Spotlight by Hannah Perry is a series of articles recognizing BVU liberal arts students and their work. Stories about pianist Rachel Taylor and vocalist Diane Nussbaum are available at bvtac.com. BVU's student organization Raíces held a Latino voting forum to start conversations about voting this election with the Latinx community.
So the Latino voting forum happened on October 25th. On that Sunday, we got 3 Latinas from the Storm Lake community.
Kenya Ortega, president of Raíces, explains the significance of having an organization that represents the Latino community at BVU.
Even though our community surrounding the school is heavily Latino, Hispanic, Spanish speaking, we have little to no representation within the school. So having a club dedicated to us and to our needs and who we are and who we represent, I think is very important.
Anna Formicelli explains how COVID-19 has made planning multicultural events on campus difficult this semester.
COVID-19 has complicated, I think, some of the past programming efforts that have come out of this office. In the past, there were a lot more in-person things happening and speakers that could come to campus and gatherings that involve food. And a lot of that stuff really isn't a possibility this year.
Matthew Marroquin explains Raíces is focusing on planning COVID-friendly events this semester.
So Raíces hasn't been able to have many in-person events due to COVID restrictions and BVU policies and regulations, but we have been doing other things to celebrate and support the Latinx culture and community. As you can see behind me, the Day of the Dead altar that's been put up, and we try to invite as much of the BVU community to be a part of that as possible. We also are holding different events, such as during Diversity and Inclusion Week. This next Wednesday, we'll be having the Walking Museum, where we'll be dressed up in traditional clothing, walking through, and anyone who walks up to us would be able to explain our culture and our traditions through that way, and also having hybrid or even completely virtual events, such as piñata building, that we'll have that night as well.
COVID-19 has brought some significant changes to the academic calendar this year. Fall break and spring break were both canceled to prevent students from leaving campus and coming back with the virus. In addition, BVU is changing J-term to May-term this academic year. Tom Nagura, Dean of School of Science, shares insight on those academic calendar changes.
As the semester's gone on, I think people are starting to feel the impact, both the students and the faculty of, okay, we could use that day off at some point. So I think that's the single biggest impact, is that constant work now. Since we go so late in May, students are missing out on internship opportunities. By the time they get to go home, maybe some of those opportunities are gone.
And now it's time for sports with Nick Henricks. Nick?
As the fall semester begins to come to a close, BVU fall sports are getting ready for their seasons that were pushed back to the spring. Beaver sports are taking to the weight room and individual practice groups, trying to stay as conditioned as possible. Both men's and women's basketball are having practices as they would during a normal year, getting ready for a potential start to their season in January. Like many teams on campus, the BVU football team is anticipating a start to their season in the spring of 2021. We were able to sit down with head coach Grant Mulring and senior John Corcoran to talk about their thoughts on the fall and what they're doing in preparation for competition.
It started out with as much normalcy as possible in terms of before school actually started. We found out late that our season wasn't going to happen, so we maintained our fall camp schedule and still practiced 2-a-days as much as we could. Once school started, we backed off and went 3 days a week, and added an extra day of lifting in there to get our guys kind of caught up to the long break that they had. And we knew we weren't playing, so we just kind of maintained and tried to find ways to make practice competitive.
Once we get to start practicing, I think I was talking to Coach Mo, and I think we're going to have some kind of a little bit ridiculous practice times, just trying to share the rec with everybody. But we're excited to make it work. We're just excited to get back and start playing football again and get to finally hit somebody else.
Well, like I talked about, BVU fall sports are getting ready for their seasons to start, and I think it's going to be a great year for Beaver football as well as Beaver basketball for both the men's and the women's. So we're anticipating a lot this year.
It should be some great seasons. We're looking forward to it. Well, that's all for this episode of BVTV News. Wash your hands, wear your mask, and we'll see you next time.